This is Jamie Magridge coming to you from my craft table. I'd like to show you how to make this card today. It's made with the Stampin' Up! Rooted in Nature. And let me flip you down and we'll get started and show you how to do this. Okay, there's a few supplies today. It's just going to be white cardstock. We have a card base that's 8.5 by 5.5. We're going to score it at 4 1/4 and fold it in the middle. We have 2 pieces of layering Whisper White. This one is 5 1/8 by 3 7/8, and this is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. They're going to layer on top of each other. Then we have a piece of vellum. This isn't Stampin' Up! Vellum because I don't have any yet. It's just a piece that I had in my drawer. Okay, we're also going to need Early Espresso, crumb cake, and the new, what's this one? Soft Seafoam Green stamp pads. So those will be the ink pads, and we're going to need Versamark. Okay. We're also going to need a pair of scissors. Let's make this a little bit neater here. A pair of scissors, some linen thread, some glue dots or a glue dot, some Stampin' Dimensionals, a bone folder is optional to score your card with, some Post-it tape or Post-it notes to stick your dies down to, some Tombow Mono Multi-Glue. The stamp sets we're going to use for the words, I'm using this Treat Time bundle. It's the Treat Time stamp set and the Petite Treats framelits. I'm going to use this stamp that says thank you for being so sweet, and this die here that will cut that out. So let me grab that die out. We're going to be using the Rooted in Nature bundle. It's a 2-box set, and the Nature's Roots framelit dies. We're going to be using the 2 leaf dies that are open. We're going to be using these 2 skeleton leaves and this leaf here stamp, and this large wood stamp. We're going to be using our Stampin' Trimmer and a die cutting machine, our chamois for cleaning off our stamps, a small wedge of sponge, and Stampin' Up! Copper embossing powder. Alright, let's get started. First thing I want to do is score my card base in half and get this trimmer out of the way. So we're going to score this at 4 1/4. Now you'll notice there's 2 blades on here. The dark one cuts, the light one scores, so let's push the dark one out of the way. We want to make sure the paper is flush against these little ridges. There's one on the top and the bottom. Line it up with where we want it to score. 4 1/4. We're going to run the scoring tool, and that's all we need the trimmer for. Okay, now to fold it, we scored on this side. That's going to crease and push in those fibers. So we're going to turn the card over and we're going to fold it the opposite way. That keeps it from cracking. And we'll take the bone folder, which is where I just had it 2 seconds ago, underneath these pile. And we're going to score it with the bone folder to crease it, make sure it's nice and... Okay, that's our card base, so we'll put that aside for now. it up here where I know where it is. Now, on the largest of the two white pieces, did I even show the card? I did, didn't I? The largest of the two white pieces, we are going to take the sentiment stamp and the Early Espresso ink, and we're going to stamp that right in the middle of the page. The reason for that is we're going to use this as a layer in the card, so we're going to cut this out of the center of it, and so we're going to stamp. I don't know why I did it that way, but I did. Okay, let's stamp it in the center. Perfect. Wash that off. I need this stamp block for the other stamps. Closing, we're done with the espresso ink, so let's put that aside. Now I'm going to set this aside for a few minutes while I move on, because I want this to dry before I try to cut it out. Okay, now that same stamp block, I'm going to take this leaf one that's from the Rooted in Nature, and this smaller piece, and this wood one. We're going to do the wood one first with the crumb cake. Ink that up good. That looks pretty good. There's a little notch in the wood and a bump on this side. I want this little notch down towards this side because I'm going to decorate it, and I want that to show. It adds character. So let's just stamp it down. Perfect. We're done with that one. Out of the way. Okay, now this green one, this little leaves, we're going to do with the soft sea foam. And we're going to use both the first generation and the second generation stamping. We're going to ink up the stamp. We're going to stamp it once with the first generation, turn the stamp a little bit, stamp it second generation. We're going to do that all the way around the rest of this card. It's alright if it overlaps each other and the brown. We just want a variation of the dark green and the light green going around the card. Scrap paper on here. I'm going to ink on my stamping mat, but excuse me. Alright, sorry for the interruption. Okay, let's finish doing this stamping on here. I need one more over here. Okay, that looks pretty good, I think. Alright, now we're going to cut out this sentiment. I think it should be dry. I'm going to use this die. Center it on there, and we're going to attach it with Post-it tape. Okay, then we're going to run it through our die cutting machine. Now my sandwich on my machine is my magnetic platform. I have a thin metal adapter because this particular machine is really old and it needs it. I have a plastic plate, my paper with my die on top of it, then another plastic plate, and I'm just going to run it through. Alrighty. Pops right out. We need this paper still, so don't get rid of it. This die in my... I have a little metal thing that you buy it for automotive, for screws and stuff, that I keep all my pieces in, and I don't lose any. Alrighty. Now, we're going to take the sponge and the seafoam green ink, and we're going to sponge around the edge of this piece. Just, I'm off camera. Just dab it in the ink and sponge it on the edge. What it looks like right now. Okay, then we're going to do the same thing to this one. I'm going to still be a little bit careful so I don't smudge the ink on the top, just in case it's not all the way dry. I've smudged it a couple times, that's why I'm saying that. Let's put in a little bit of ink around the edge. Alright, and that piece is done. Now we're done with the sponge. We can put that away. We're done with the green ink. We can put that away. Now we need our leaves. We're going to do one at a time because I only have the one block. And we're going to use the vellum. So let's bring out this mat so that you can see what I'm doing. Alright, Versamark. And we're going to stamp one large leaf. And 2 small leaves. Oops, sorry. Just bumped the camera. There we go. Done with the stamp, but we're not done with the Versamark. So we're going to bring over the embossing powder and put the powder on this while it's still wet. And I keep a coffee filter, it's a clean one, in this little bead tray. It makes it much easier to put the embossing powder back in the jar. This paper is really soft and flexible, so it just goes right in like that. And I should have probably used my embossing buddy, but I forgot to. Let's just grab a paintbrush, brush off some of this extra. It's not going to matter because we're going to cut it out anyway, but might as well not waste it if I don't. Okay, let's set that down for a minute. Now on this piece that we cut the center out of, we're going to take the Versamark and we're going to rub it around the edges. You want to have at least an eighth to a quarter of an inch of the Versamark. I'm not sure if you can see it. There's a little bit of a shimmer on there where you can see where the Versamark is. And that's one tool that I did forget to mention. We're going to need our heat tool. If you miss a spot, that's alright. You can go back and add more afterwards, but it's easier if you can get it all at once. What we're doing is making a background paper that's going to match the embossing on the leaves. I don't have any of the copper paper, so this will match it exactly because it's the same. We're going to use the same copper embossing powder. Okay, the lid on this so it doesn't get all full of powder any worse than it already is. Emboss this. Sprinkle the powder on it. Okay, let me take a moment to put this away so I don't end up with it all over the place. Shake it off into the trash. Okay. Okay, now we're going to bring in our heat tool. We want to let it heat up a little bit before we get started. It avoids warping of the paper. It also especially is important with the vellum. It'll make it emboss a lot faster. So let me turn this on for a minute here. We're going to start with this one. You're going to hold the heat tool in front of the... Oops, I just knocked some of that off. And you're going to hold it, move it around just a little bit. When it starts to melt and get shiny, then you're going to move the heat tool. You don't want to hold it too long because then the embossing powder is going to totally melt into the paper. And the shininess will disappear, but you want to hold it long enough so that it melts completely and smooths itself out. I don't know if you can see that or not. Can't get the tool any closer because my cord's too short. See it melting? You don't want to touch it right away until it cools off because it is soft, melted molten plastic, and you will leave fingerprints in it and you might burn yourself. Alright, now that it's still hot, we're going to do the leaves, and we're going to do them really as fast as we can because it is vellum and it won't take too much heat. But look how fast they emboss on this vellum. That's so awesome. So fun to watch. Alright, we're done with the heat tool, hopefully. Let's check and make sure. I think I got one little spot over here I probably should touch up, so let's do that. Otherwise we're going to have a naked spot. Any other spots that need any? Yeah, that's pretty good. I'll just do a little bit there too. Okay, let's just touch those up so that it looks really good. I can't remember where I did the other over here. Okay. Let's just melt this real fast. It won't take long because it's really pretty hot already. See how fast that is once it heats up? And just till it smooths itself out. All right. I'm gonna hit this spot here because all right. Now we need to cut out these. Let me put this embossing powder away first before I spill it all over. So I'm known for doing that. All right. So we're done with that. Okay. Now with the Tombow glue, we're going to adhere this piece on top of this piece. So we'll have a nice copper frame around it. You don't want to use too much of the Tombow. You don't want it to ooze out the sides. It is a sticky glue. It works very well, but it doesn't dry completely. It always stays a little bit sticky. The nature of that is if you use it on a piece of paper or something and you don't attach it to it when it's wet, you let it dry, it becomes like a Post-it note, kind of sticky. It becomes a repositionable sticky, which is kind of nice. Make sure this is glued down well. Okay, that's that layer. Okay, now we need to cut out our leaves. So we're going to take the dies. You'll see on the die there's an end that is the point of the leaf and the end that's the stem. So we're going to line those up. I'm going to bring over this platform. It's a little easier. Line it up. Use your Post-it notes. Now with the magnetic platform, if I didn't have warped plates, I probably wouldn't need the Post-it tape, but I tend to use it anyway. That way it doesn't shift on you. And one more, I can do another one at the same time. Or it's less likely to shift on you. Sometimes they still do. These tapes don't want to stick because I've used them several times already. Lid on top. So again, my sandwich is my magnetic platform, my shim, clear acrylic plate, my paper, my die, and another acrylic plate. Run it through. Oh, I'm wiggling the whole table. I'm sorry about that. Alright, I'm just going to cut out the two. I have a couple others that I cut out earlier, so I'll just use one of those. Get to it. There it is. Cut that one out later. Alright. We're done with this. Okay, so now to put it together, we're going to take our sentiment piece and we're going to put 4 Stampin' Dimensionals on the back. Now, I know that's a lot of dimensionals for this one little tiny piece, but these dimensionals are going to help hold the leaves in place. It's going to be pretty much all the glue that's needed for putting those leaves on. We may have to put a little bit of the Tombow mono underneath it if they decide not to stay stuck. So what we're going to do is set up our leaves. You want them shiny side up, and you put them, arrange them however you want them here, sort of like that. This one here, it's going to go down here. Alright, now we're going to take off the backs of the dimensionals. Just push your finger into it, it pops up the edge, and you're able to peel that right off. Okay, make sure it's the correct way up. Make sure you have your leaves where you want them. Then we're going to set this down on top of them. That's why there's so much adhesive on there. See, they're stuck down. I might put a little bit behind that one, just to be safe. Just a little dab. Okay, that's the front of our card. Now, you could leave it like this. It's really quite pretty this way. I did add an embellishment, which was a bow that I made using the linen thread. I just wrapped it around my fingers 3 times. Clipped it. Clipped another little piece. Pulled them off my fingers. Made the little bow shape. And then with this little piece, I just tied it in the center like a knot. Snugged it up. Then I took a glue dot. You grab the glue dot or stick it on the glue dot, and then you kind of want to make sure it rolls up on itself. See how it's kind of rolled up on itself? So that when you stick it on the card, there's no sticky glue sticking out. Fluff it up however you want it. Now, you could leave it like this. This is very pretty, just like this. Or you could step it up a notch. Let me show you this one, where I added some sequins to it. There's also some metal gems in the catalog that would look really sharp on here. I just don't have those yet. And then this is going to be glued to our card base, which is right here. Again, not too much glue. You want enough glue that it stays stuck, but not too much glue. You don't want it oozing out. This paper's heavy enough that it's not going to leave marks. You know, like wet glue will sometimes leave, I want to use this side, will sometimes leave lines where your glue is. This glue doesn't do that because the paper's heavy enough. Okay, glue this in place, make sure it's centered. There's going to be a white border all the way around it. It down good, and that is our card. I might trim this one a little bit, sticking out a little far. There you go. Well, thank you for joining me at my table today. Again, my name is Jamie Magrich. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. If you see product that you would like to purchase today, you can purchase it at my store. Again, my name is Jamie Magrich. JamieMagrich.StampinUp.net. Go to that site, JamieMagrich.StampinUp.net. You can place an order right there, or you can go to StampinUp.com. Just plug my name in, Jamie Magrich, where it asks for demonstrator. Well, thank you so much for joining me at my craft table, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.